Okay. I am going to talk about the new topic, civilian service on alpine pastures. There are a few questions to start with. So, does Agridea run mobile emergency team of shepherds and LGDs? What about Swiss civilian service and livestock prevention in Switzerland? And why doesn't Agridea work with volunteers? So that's just the content, and you see we just try to go through it. Since 2003, Agridea established a mobile team for emergency assistance. So we call it Mobiler Herdenschutz. And this was like a first aid after attacks. So if there was something like a predation on an alpine pasture, these teams were like a fire brigade to go there and help to prevent more damage on this certain case in a short time. And what Agridea was doing was the coordination about this assistance. So they had shepherds available to do this work and also livestock guarding dogs. How does this go on? So a farmer or a shepherd realizes in the morning there was an predation overnight. They call, like a help call, they call the Agridea. Shepherds and livestock guarding dogs were organized and sent on road to go to this pasture. And there were different measures to put on the ground immediately. And what's to say, usually these sheep were all over the place, and to introduce livestock guarding dogs immediately on sheep which were not used, they always put the night pen on to get this situation stable and get the livestock guarding dogs a chance to get in contact to the sheep. So what they did is night pen, and they bring the livestock to the sheep, introduce them, and to support them to the shepherd which is already there. So it was a help in short time. It was usually a really good protection after the setup of these measures. So no more attacks after this team, this assistance was on ground, but it was usually just a short-time solution. And the biggest problem I just mentioned before is the situation that we have three alpine pasture systems. There is a free-range system, and this was traditionally the easiest system in Switzerland. So the summering time started beginning of June. You just put the sheep to the beginning of the pasture, and you just let them walk uphill, and you try to collect them in the end of the summer season. This was the easiest system of keeping sheep on alpine pasture. There are two more systems. That's the rotation range. So you kind of split the alpine pasture in different sectors, and you do a rotation. So the sheep stay in one sector for about 2 weeks, and then they go on to the next system. And the third system, which have been lost a bit in a few last decades, was like herding by a shepherd on a mountain. So what we found was usually one of the first two examples. And you can imagine when you've got free-range sheep which are used to grass wherever they want, and they know exactly where these good spots are, it's first a hell of a job to get them into a night pen. And if you have done this, then you have the sheep safe for one night, and then you open it the next morning, and all they do, they just re-find the spots they really like. So every day or every night, you just have to collect sheep where they are used to grass, or they have been used for grass over the last few years. So if you have got like a 7-year-old ewe, she exactly knows where she wants to go. So kind of headstrong leader animals, and so this was a big trouble to get them where you wanted to have them. Just a little thing to say there, the agriculture politic changed the payment system of this system. So there is a motivation in gaining more money when you change the system from the left to the right. So just roughly, there is a standardized size for like a cow for over a summertime. This is about 10 sheep. Will be paid by 100 Swiss franc for the season in this system. And so what they do as a motivation, if you go and change the system to a rotation system, which is a higher value for the biodiversity, you get like 320 Swiss francs. Or if you even change to a system with a shepherd, you get a 400 Swiss francs. So there is a motivation on the agricultural subsidies side. This was a really important and good thing for the topic of predators. So that's two questions. In which system does the night pen work? So you see the problems I just mentioned before. And what do livestock guarding dogs need to work successfully? Rotation range usually just works for a night pen when the responsible people are not far away. So if there is like a cattle ground and a sheep ground, and they can go there in the evening and put them together, for example, or there is a shepherd on field already. So LGDs need usually sheep which know LGDs. So this is a challenge we had. They should stay more or less closely. That's the reason why we focused on this rotation range or the herding by shepherd. And you use the night pens for the introduction or smaller fields. So free range system falls away, but free range system was a common thing. So this is the challenge of the mobile emergency assistant. So 2 more questions. Do the sheep adapt to the new system? Or what do you have to do, like long-term view, to get to this point? Or is there enough manpower to implement the measures? And since 2010, there is this possibility to have the civilian service as a support in livestock damage prevention, which I just explained on the next slide. These are young people as a support for farmers to support them for different work when they have like peak times and they need someone, and the structure is too small to really have like 2 shepherds for do the work. There is a Swiss official duty. So a normal young man has to do either army or civilian service. You kind of have the choice in what you want to do. Usually the civil service is longer than the army time period. This was established in 1996. There are about 47,000 PCS and about 5,000 organizations which have jobs or which applies to get these people to do work. And this work is mainly based on like social background or like nature conservation. And Agridea applied for civil service, and we got usually like 4 to 5 people a year which do their service for Agridea. So what are the reasons to have them in our program? There is the PCS view. So they just have to do their work off in some service, so in social or in nature way. They can choose where they want to do it or choose where they have to do it, to be honest. And usually people which are like interested in nature or animals, these are the people we get in the service by Agridea. There is a farmer's view as well, so they need additional help. As I said before, usually they are not like big enough to just have like 1 or 2 fixed time shepherds there, so they just have peak times to like put on fences or something, so they just have them for a few days. I come to it later. They are trustworthy, so you book them and they are there. This day you really want to have them, except the train system is breaking down, but that's not so often in Switzerland. It's a cheap version for getting manpower, and it's all organized. So it's a central office like Agridea, which is organizing the working time of these 4 to 5 young people. So you can see there's like a triangle in this organization. The PCS can apply for a job. He does do a preparation. There is a course of, like, he gets information about what he will do then in the mountain. And he got a practical week on farms we know very, very well, and there are also LGDs on it, because quite often they have to work with LGDs in the mountain, so they should know how about. And they are like scheduled by our worker Ricarda usually. So the farmer on the other side, he applies for a PCS at Agridea. That's a phone call or an email. And he's responsible for boarding, lodging, and work instructions, like also safety instruction and all these things. And Agridea does administration and coordination for either both sides. Just to give you a bit of an overview about the activities they do, it's like a general flock maintenance. They do fencing, they build fence, they just maintain them, or they just take them down, or have to carry them from one spot to the other if it's a rotation system, for example. They care about livestock guarding dogs. They also help to get the alpine pasture clean of too many bushes. And they do also support when we've got like predators presence. This is just an example. We've seen a similar picture before at the fences. This has been an emergency assistant 2016 springtime on lowland. That's like that's not a normal way we do that. There we had a few attacks of wolf on home fields. And what you can see here, the farmer tried to defend his animals, but he just forgot to also put the wire on the bottom, and this was the reason why they had attacks. And we just could see the same system in a whole area, so everybody did the same thing to avoid to get the wolf to jump into the field, but nobody just was thinking on lower weak possibilities to go through. And what we did there, they had like a farmers group which were doing the maintenance, but every farmer also had to do the work at home. So what they did, they applied for a PCS for about a week, and one PCS went on field there, and he just did the support together with the farmers. And this was quite a quick thing and quite successful. So this is what he had to do then. That's like before and after. This is like the planning schedule of Ricarda. That's how she puts the names into her system. And you can see they're booked like for 2 days or for like 3 weeks. That depends a bit the work, and also it's always a question, are they disponible or not? Are there other reasons which are more important, or can they stay on a farm and just go on helping there? This is a farmer satisfaction, and there you can see, if you can read them, like blue and green, they are quite happy with this support. So you can see there's like the higher ones, they were a help, they were motivated as well, they had good knowledge, good communication. That's also an important thing. So they had like a co-worker, they could speak with it. So all in all, there are not many red spots on it. And then we just go on that in 2017, these two systems, in a way, changed a bit. So emergency assistance goes civilian service. So the mobile team of emergency assistance was shot end of 2016. And there were different reasons. And one of the main reasons, firstly, is you did see the planification of the livestock guarding dogs. And this is a thing, we run out of dogs. And we just kept a few dogs which did this emergency team work there. And a lot of farmers, when it was successful after a predation, they wanted to keep their dogs. And from time to time, they really could keep these dogs, but then they just found out, okay, we better wait until we've got an attack, and then we can immediately get the dogs which are on ground. This was one negative, so they were quicker to get dogs than other ones which did a proper planification. And the lead was now new at the canton. So before it was all centralized at Agridea, and since like 2014, in fact, the cantons should organize their emergency kits, their emergency staff as well. And it was not easy to travel around all these dogs with the responsible shepherds. And the next thing was, you just book these dogs for a week, and on another alpine pasture there's a next attack, and this wasn't that often in the very beginning of this system. So we had more and more the situation that everybody wanted to book in for this emergency team, and it was not easy to decide where do we really put them. And in short time view, like just to get the system of having this night pen system was usually enough. So this was one of the reasons we could say, okay, we go on to this system to have the civil service, which helps to put night pens if necessary. And if someone is really interested and keen to have guarding dogs, they just follow the planification. So we just come to the end. A few questions we could answer now. So does Agridea run mobile emergency teams of shepherd? Yeah, we did. What about Swiss Civil and Service and Livestock Prevention? I think you just understand now a bit how it runs. And why doesn't Agridea work with volunteers? We actually would have the possibility to work with volunteers. There is an organization called Hirtenhilfe. It's like a shepherd support, and this is a little NGO, and they just help themselves, and farmers could apply to get support. But the last few years, we just also found out there are a few challenges. So the reliability of these people, the disponibility, and also the fitness of the people was often not enough, and this is a big advantage of these young people which really have to do the work, and they know they cannot avoid just doing it. So we from Agridea, we like to follow the way we do actually. Thank you very much.